In this video, I'm building a face frame for a cabinet that I'm making for my kitchen. And whenever I make a face frame, I always prefer to have the cabinet built first. And that way I can lay out the parts on there to get a more precise measurement. And that's what I'm doing here. And also this cabinet, since it is made for a corner and it's an odd shape, it's hard to build so that it comes out exactly like the plans, especially when you're using fairly basic workshop tools. There are a few different ways that the face frame can be put together, but in this instance, I'm using dowels because I don't want any fasteners to show. I don't have a proper dowel jig, but what I did was I took a scrap of the same thickness wood that I'm using here, and I drilled a 3/8 inch hole on my drill press, and that'll act as a jig to keep the bit straight as it goes in. So I drilled the holes in the stiles first, and then I'm going to use a dowel center that fits in that hole, and then line that up with the rail and press the parts together, and that gives me the location for the hole that will match up with that. And then I can test the fit and see how everything lines up. And mainly what I'm looking for is that the parts be flush on the surface. To assemble the face frame, I'm using polyurethane construction adhesive, and I'm not going to go out of my way to get any on the dowel. Mainly I'm using the dowels to keep the parts lined up. Given that the face frame will be glued and nailed to the rest of the cabinet, I don't really need a whole lot of strength here from the glue and the dowels in these joints. So after I got it all put together, I clamped it up and checked to make sure it was still square. And then I set it aside to dry while I continued working on the cabinet. In the summer, with the warm weather, it really doesn't take long for this glue to set up. And about 2 hours later, I took it out of the clamps and I attached it to the face of the cabinet. Once again, I used more polyurethane construction adhesive, and I drove in some brads to basically lock it in place until I could get it clamped up. I used the brads sparingly, and I put them in places where they would mostly be hidden by the door that goes on this cabinet. So that's going to wrap this one up. If you're interested in watching a video on how I built this cabinet, there's a link in the description that'll take you right there.